Ina, oh, look at the light system. Is that too much light in here? There's nothing I can do about it. Okay, Ina alhamdulillah wa salat wa salam Allah wa rasulullah. Welcome to our Aqidah class. And for this class, we are discussing the importance of trying to develop the three characteristics of faith that our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, unless we have those three characteristics, we will never taste the sweetness of faith. And what are those three characteristics? Number one, we have to love Allah and love his Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than anything. Number two, we have to learn to love others for the sake of Allah, and that's what's so hard to develop. And number three, we have to hate the idea of not being a Muslim. And this is something that a lot of people struggle with too, especially you new shahadas. You know, I just want to remind the sisters here who are in the Facebook group, the New Muslims group, when you sisters are posting up pictures of how you used to look back in the day, the days when you didn't wear hijab, the days when you didn't cover your body, this is haram. You shouldn't be doing that, because again, one of the qualities of faith is you must hate even the idea of never being a Muslim. You have to hate the idea of becoming a non-believer. If you're sitting there wanting people to see how you looked, how long your hair was, and how you were built, that means you still have some jahiliyyah. You still have some pre-Islam in you. You know, you got to learn to let go of all of that. You know, so no posting up pictures of how you looked without a hijab. No pictures of how you looked back in the day, the days when we weren't dressed properly. No pictures of you at the club smoking and drinking and dancing and doing the butt. None of that. One of the sisters had that on her page. She had a video from back in the 80s, my era. Doing the butt, and she was, you know, Humpty Dog, do the hump. You don't do that. Take that video down. Because one of the characteristics of faith is you hate the idea of not being a believer. So what's there to show? You don't want people to see you at your worst. This is something that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam emphasized a lot of. Don't show people at their worst. He got angry, you know, when the companions, after a battle, he would tell the companions to be careful with the prisoners of war. Do not drag the women through the battlefield. Don't let them see the deceased men and their deceased people. You know, don't display people at their weakest point or at their worst. Let them keep the memories that they had of when that person was at their best. So imagine what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say if he were living today and saw you Muslim brothers and sisters posting up pictures of dead Muslim babies and people from Palestine on your pages. This is not Islam. We don't do that. Like the Prophet said, we have to have some dignity and some humility, and we respect the dead. We want to remember them when they were at their best, not when they were at their worst or most vulnerable point. And besides that, you know, alhamdulillah, you know, one thing about the Christians, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there are 6 things about the Christians that will always keep them in the majority over us. And one of them is they can't stand to see children killed and children and women mistreated. So you don't have to post pictures of dead people on your Facebook pages in Palestine, because the Christians are putting it all over the news. Okay, so, we need to stop that. That's one of the characteristics of faith. You don't want to let people see you at your worst. So for my new shahadas here, my new converts, please take those pictures down and videos of you doing a Humpty Dump or whatever that dance was. Take it down. Okay. So what we're doing, yesterday we spoke about how things that we can do to develop love for Allah and love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We talked about one of the things we can do is, of course, to always seek knowledge of the religion, because the more knowledge we seek of this religion, the closer we become to Allah. And that knowledge should also not just consist of learning the Quran, but also the hadiths, because the hadiths are the things that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said and did that'll help you to develop a love and attachment towards him. And you also want to learn the seerah, the stories of the companions, the stories of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because that will help you to develop an attachment to him. A lot of the sisters are telling me how ever since I started teaching the series on the heroines of Islam, when I'm teaching about the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and how strong of a woman they were, how the Prophet was able to attend to their needs. Each wife he treated special. Each wife felt loved and protected and cared for. It's making the women here fall in love with him. I have a lot of the sisters emailing me saying, Sister Layla, I'm content being single because maybe Allah will marry me to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because I need a man like that. So again, the same way that love is developing in your heart just from hearing how good of a husband he was and how attentive he was to each and every wife. The more we learn about him, his interaction with his companions, his interactions with his enemies, that'll increase that love for him, which will turn to protection and devotion to him. So we talked about those things yesterday, things that we can do to help develop love and attachment towards Allah and his Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today, we're going to talk about things that we can do that will help us to grow love for the sake of Allah. And I want everybody to take out their books. We're still in the chapter, this is chapter 17. And the book, for those of you who are new, is the book Diluting Wala Welbera. This is a book written by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid. And everyone should have this book as part of their library. You can go to Amazon.com, and that's how the book looks in the back. It doesn't have me on it, and it doesn't have him, but that's the way it looks. You want to go to Amazon.com, and the book is $19.99. Purchase the book Diluting Wala Welbera. And tonight we will be continuing with chapter 17. Okay? And again, we talked about how in Islam, Allah is love, and Allah is the most compassionate, and he values those two characteristics. And as Muslims, we're supposed to take the names of Allah and break them down to understand their meaning, and then try to implement their meaning into our ourselves and our interactions with others and ourselves. So in Islam, love and compassion is highly valued. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us how to love our fellow Muslim brothers and sisters. And in fact, he told us one of the ways that we develop love for each other is to want for your brother what you would want for yourself. to want for your sister what you'd want for yourself. That doesn't mean give them money. That's talking about treatment, behavior. He taught us to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. You don't want anyone making fun of you, so you don't make fun of anyone else. You don't want anyone ignoring you, so you don't ignore them. If we can develop that within ourselves, then it'll become easy for us to love for the sake of Allah. Because loving for the sake of Allah simply means that you look at another Muslim, and instead of you focusing on the negative characteristics that you don't like about that person, you instead tune in to the good characteristics he or she has that Allah likes. You may not like the fact that that brother doesn't come to the mosque as often as he should, but he does come, and he's always donating money every month to help pay the masjid expenses. So you focus on the good that that person is doing, and love that person, try to overlook the shortcomings that we have. I mean, we advise one another. Of course, we're going to always advise a brother to come to the mosque, but don't let the fact that he doesn't come as often as you feel he should, turn you against him, because he's always donating $1,000 every month to help pay the expenses of it. So that's an example of loving for the sake of Allah. And once we develop this love for the sake of Allah, this is allegiance. This is how we show allegiance to each other. The more we're able to overlook the faults of each other, the things that we don't like, and focus on the things that Allah likes, it'll promote compassion and empathy. We will be there to help one another. It'll motivate you to do good to other Muslims. It'll motivate you to help them when they are in need. So, loving for the sake of Allah. This means to love the person for the good that he or she is doing, that Allah loves, and not allow our personal opinions or our personal dislikes to get in the way. Does everybody understand that? And like I say, I like to use myself as an example, okay, because I know myself better than I know anyone else. A lot of people like to say, oh, Sister Layla, her voice is so loud. Well, what do you expect? I'm a public speaker. I'm a broadcast journalist. I'm trained to have that type of voice, okay? And you don't like a loud voice. But what does Allah say about a woman in loud voices? Allah commands the believing woman in the Quran. Allah says, oh, you women who believe, do not make your voices soft when you speak publicly, because you don't know what evil is lurking in the heart of a man. Remember, guys, women, we should understand that men are weak. They got a big problem. They're not as strong as us when it comes to that emotional stuff, that sexual stuff. So Allah commands us, not only do we cover our bodies completely, except for the face and hands when we go out in the public, but he also commands us to draw our khimar over our bosom, and to make your voices loud like mine and strong like mine. Because can't no man say that my voice is order. Just like they couldn't say that Salama's voice was order. They didn't say Aisha's voice was order. So it's not haram for women to speak, guys. It's just the manner in which you're speaking. If you're going to speak publicly in the presence of men, you have to be just the way I am. Your voice strong, serious, even intimidating. Oh yeah, I know I'm intimidating. That's deliberate. Very intimidating. So that way you will listen to what I have to say. Any men that may be listening to me, they're not going to focus on how they may think, how attractive they may think I am. My voice is so intimidating and so serious, they can't help but focus on what I'm saying. And that's how we're supposed to be publicly. So that's an example. I'm going to overlook the fact that I don't like something, because perhaps what I don't like is something that Allah loves. So we have to start doing that with each other a lot, subhanAllah. So how can we develop this type of love? How can we work on developing love for the sake of Allah? Well, one of the ways to grow this type of love is by, first of all, getting a good relationship with Muslims. A lot of you new sisters who are converts to Islam, I want you guys to understand that when you declare La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, those words brought you into Islam. And your journey begins from there. You have to change your whole lifestyle. No longer should you be hanging out with your non-Muslim friends. You have to now find new friends, new Muslim women to hang around with. And by the way, there's no male friends in Islam. I have to stress this because one of the new sisters sent me a text message today asking me, can she still have her male friends? No, there's no male friendship relationships in Islam. It's business and that's it. The Prophet ﷺ said, no woman who fears Allah, no man who believes in and fears Allah can be alone, not even to learn the Quran. They have to have a third party present, because it's gonna lead to hanky panky stanky. That's just the way Allah made us. So no male friends. But you have to go around now. You need to go to the masjid and attach yourself to strong, practicing Muslim women. You don't want to hang out with the Muslim women that are weak in their practice. You want to surround yourself with the Muslim women that are strong. You need the Muslim women that wear hijab. You need the Muslim women that dress like me in abayas, not the blue jean top rag women. No, you need the Kimar Abaya women that are praying their prayers every day, that don't hang out in the streets. Because as a Muslim woman, we're not supposed to hang out in the street. Like I was telling you guys yesterday, even when we travel. I'm at my timeshare right now, but I haven't left it. I'm doing everything inside my resort. My resort has several restaurants. My resort has coffee shops. My resort has a grocery store. It has swimming pool, hot tub, everything I need is in my resort. I've been here and I'm going to be here a couple more days, and I haven't left the resort. I have no reason to. It's my home. This is my home away from home. Your home is better for you. It's safer for you as a Muslim woman. So you need to attach yourself to those strong, practicing Muslim women in the community who are adhering to the laws of Allah. Those women that pray, that dress the part, pray the part, speak the part, live the part, act the part. You don't want to attach yourself to the weak ones. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ said a man or a woman will take on the religion of their close friends. You can tell how good a person is by the people they hang around with. So as a Muslim woman, you want to surround yourself with strong, practicing Muslim women, not weak ones. So that's one of the ways to grow love for each other, by building strong relationships with one another. And we can do this by attending community events. When you go to Juma prayer, look for the strong practicing Muslim sisters to hang out with. You can also do this by volunteering at the masjid. Join some of the volunteer groups. They might have a weekend school at your masjid, and maybe they need people to help with the children. Volunteer. Okay, participate in group activities that promote brotherhood, that promote sisterhood. If your masjid has potluck once a month, go to the potluck. This will help you to get a relationship with other Muslims. And this will also help you to understand that Islam was sent to all mankind and jinn. It wasn't just sent to the Arabs. And this is a big problem that we have, this nationalism, this racism, this tribalism. When you go around Muslims, don't just attach yourself to the people of your color. One of the greatest weapons that we have, that the non-Muslims don't have, is our diversity. Is the fact that Islam was sent to all people. Is the fact that we all believe La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. So when you go to the masjid functions, don't just hang around with the Arabic women or the Caucasian women or just the African American women. You want to hang around with all of them. Be diverse. Be diverse in your selection of friends. You know, try to get friends from all racial backgrounds. Because that'll help you to love Muslims from all over. You should have, if your masajid has Bosnians and Arabs and Indians and Pakistanis and African Americans and Somalis and Nigerians and Ghanis. Get a friend from every group. Subhanallah. That'll keep you, from falling into that racism, that nationalism, that tribalism. And plus, it'll help to instill love for the sake of Allah for anyone that declares La ilaha illallah. So try to do that. Also, another way to develop love for others for the sake of Allah is by practicing forgiveness and overlooking the faults. Now, I'm not talking about forgive a person because they raped you. No, no, no. I want all the new Muslim sisters here to remember, once a person declares La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, 3 things are sacred: your life, your honor, your property. If anybody violates those 3 things, we have what's called qisas in Islam, which is an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. So I'm not telling you to forgive somebody that raped you. I'm not telling you to forgive somebody that stole your car. I ain't telling you to forgive somebody that abused your children. I'm talking about not holding petty grudges. You're mad at me because I didn't show up on time to pick you up to take you to the mosque. That's what I'm talking about. You're mad at me because you asked me a question and I gave you an answer that you didn't want to hear. Or you asked me the question and maybe my voice got too loud. I'm talking about stuff like that, petty things like that. Be forgiving, and try to let that type of stuff go. But if I put my hands on you, that's something different. You can demand qisas after you put yours back on me. Okay? We ain't no turn the other cheek people. So I'm not telling you to turn the other cheek. But what I'm telling you is, don't hold grudges. Don't hold petty grudges against your brothers and sisters in Islam. Overlook the shortcomings. Overlook the fact that I'm late, that I'm never on time. Reprimand me for it, but don't let it stand between us. So I want you guys to understand that that's something that a lot of Muslims don't grasp either. I'm going to reprimand you for being late because Allah doesn't like for us to be late. But I'm not going to hold it against you to the point where I'm going to can my friendship with you. So, you want to overlook the faults of a person, but at the same time, admonish them for their faults too, in a nice, gentle, kind way. Let the person know, okay, Layla, you got a little bit too loud with me. And I'll say, I'm sorry, I apologize, I got too excited. I'm a female, we can get excited, we can get emotional. I apologize. I mean, you correct the person or check the person in a nice way. But don't allow that to come between you and that other Muslim's relationship. So it's about balance. Islam is all about balance. You know, we need to know when to hold and when to fold and how to do it. Okay? So, loving others for the sake of Allah. This is what connects us to the principle of allegiance. Because again, when we declare La ilaha illallah, we're declaring allegiance to Allah, to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to all the other Muslims in the world. So we love them for the sake of Allah. We love them because Allah loves them. And why does Allah love them? Allah loves them because they believe in Him. And on the other hand, we practice bara, which is distancing. We distance and reject anything that comes between our belief in Allah. We distance ourselves and reject anything that contradicts this religion of ours. So, for example, those sisters at the masjid that don't wear hijab, we don't abuse them. They're still our sisters in faith. But do we become close, attached friends with them? No. You need somebody that's wearing hijab that can strengthen you. But that doesn't mean that you cut her out. I mean, I'm going to distance myself to you until you start wearing hijab. I'm not going to hang out with you. But if you need help, I'll be there to help you. If you need money, I'll give you money. If you need me to babysit your kids, I'll even do that. But will I hang out with you? No, not while you're dressed like a non-Muslim. No. You guys get it? So it's balance. It's balance. We distance ourselves with each other with balance. I have allegiance to her when it comes to her needing help and support. But as far as her hanging out with me, I'm not inviting her over to my house to hang out with me and Latifah. You know, what that look like? Me and Latifah dressed like this and she come in looking like Cardi B. Something's wrong there. But if that sister needs help, if she gets sick and has to go to the hospital, I'll be there, you know, and I'll be there to not only help her, but I'll reprimand her and advise her too. Well, maybe you should start covering up. Maybe this is the time that you dress the way you're supposed to before Allah takes your soul. So, loving others for the sake of Allah is what leads to allegiance, to having allegiance with them. It also is what allows us to be able to distance ourselves and reject those parts of a person that we need to because they're not in sync with Allah's commands. Okay? And by loving others for the sake of Allah, this is how we uphold close relationships. And this is also how we avoid those behaviors that could harm each other too. Because when you love a person, you respect them. And you don't want to deliberately do anything to harm them. I'm not going to backbite somebody that I love. I mean, if I love you for the sake of Allah, that's going to make me think twice before I say something bad about you in your absence. And neither am I going to sit and allow anyone else to say anything bad about you. I'm going to stand up and say, that's my sister. Hey, wait a minute. She's a good Muslim. You're not going to sit here and talk about her. So you can see how love for the sake of Allah leads to allegiance. It leads to you having allegiance towards that person. And this is what leads to that sweetness of faith. That sweetness of faith. Because we can put aside our petty dislikes and be forgiving. We can put aside our petty dislikes and see the good in others. And because we can see the good in that person, it's going to strengthen our relationship with them. And we're not going to allow others to hurt them. And we'll be there to help them if they need help. And that brings us to the third characteristic of the sweetness of faith. And that is the one that many of us struggle with. Hating disbelief. Now, one of the things that a lot of you new converts need to understand, what makes Islam different than Christianity, a lot of things do. But one of the things is, in Christianity, you guys are taught that hate is something bad. We should never say hate. No. Hate is a part of faith in Islam. Okay, not only must we love for Allah's sake, but we have to hate for his sake too. And Allah loves and Allah hates. Allah tells us in the Quran, he hates everything that he made unlawful. Allah hates alcohol. Allah hates cigarettes. Allah hates fornication. Allah hates sodomy. Allah hates lying and stealing. We're supposed to hate these things too. And then on the other hand, Allah tells us that he loves everything he made lawful. So everything that Allah made lawful is good and clean, and we should love it too. That's why we have to be careful saying things like, I hate red meat. Why do you hate red meat? Allah made red meat lawful, and Allah says everything he made lawful is good and clean. Perhaps you hate something that Allah brings good about. You can say that you prefer to not eat red meat, but you shouldn't say you hate it, because you're hating something that Allah loves. He loves everything he made lawful. So, that's the concept of hating and loving for the sake of Allah too. I love everything that Allah loves, and I hate only the things that Allah hates. And Allah hates most disbelief. So we should hate that too. That's why you don't put those pictures up of how you used to look back in the day. And how can I go about developing hate for the sake of Allah? How can I go about developing hatred of disbelief? Well, it begins with seeking knowledge. It begins with seeking the proper knowledge of this religion, and then understanding it too. That's why every Muslim has to have a teacher. Every Muslim should have his own personal teacher, because you cannot teach yourself this deen. Even I have a teacher. Okay? We have to seek knowledge of this religion, and we seek it from the bona fide, qualified people who can break it down to us in the language we speak, and who can cause us to understand the true meaning of that Quran, who can cause us to understand the true meaning of what the Prophet said and did. Once we develop that true understanding, then we can go about cultivating this hate for everything that Allah hates. Okay? Also, another way to develop this type of hatred is by reflecting on the consequences. The consequences of disbelief. Think about the consequences, for example, of not wearing a hijab. And let's talk about that for a minute. The Prophet ﷺ told us what some of the punishments are for certain sins. For the women and the men that didn't dress properly in this world. Can you guys hear my background noise?
No.
Okay, it's not too loud. Y'all sure? Because boy, it's loud. Okay, for those women that don't wear hijab. For those women that wear tight-fitting clothes, what's the punishment? And it's going to happen when you in that grave. When you are in the grave, Allah will take your soul and he will have it put in a cauldron of a heated cauldron, and you will be naked with a lot of fornicators and adulterators. You will, excuse me, these kids, now they want to come in here and play games. Allah will take you and put you in a cauldron naked with a bunch of women and men who were fornicators and adulterers and who didn't cover their bodies in this world. And you will be in that hot pot roasting until the day of judgment. That's the punishment. If we think about that punishment, because I wouldn't wear a hijab. Oh yeah. And it's going to happen in that grave. After the questioning, that's when that man will appear. And he will say, I represent your bad deeds. The fact that you say you believed in Allah, but you didn't cover properly. You have to come out and pay the price. And he will rip your soul and throw it in that hellfire, in that pot. And you're going to be roasting in there until the day of judgment, however long that takes. And on the day of judgment, Allah may decide to forgive you and say you did the time so you can go to paradise. Or he may say, give her another 50,000 years in that cauldron. So if we think about the punishment, we think about the consequences, of the bad choices we make, sometimes that can help us to, number one, do the right thing by covering up. And number two, hate the fact. Hate even the idea of not covering up, because you hate the idea of being in your grave, your body in the grave, and your soul burning in that hellfire. Think about that. The same with lying. What's going to happen after the question of the grave? That man will appear and say, guess what? Even though you believed in Allah, you still deliberately, intentionally lied. So you got to pay to the piper. They're going to have you placed in a river of blood in hell. And your mouth, your face will be ripped from one side to the other. And your face will continue to be ripped from one side to the other until the day of judgment. So if we think about the consequences, the punishments that Allah has in store for those of us who deliberately, intentionally disobey him, that will help you to develop this hatred for the things that he hates, and in turn bring you into obedience to him. Okay? So that's another thing we can do. Also, another way to strengthen our dislike or our hatred for disbelief is by strengthening our connection to Allah through the voluntary prayers, through remembrance of Allah, through voluntary fasts. All of this type of stuff will help us to get closer to Allah. And the closer we become to Allah, then the less likely we'll be to deliberately and intentionally disobey him. But again, guys, everything in Islam is within balance. Your love for Allah, your love for yourself, your love for the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I've heard some Muslims say that they love the Prophet more than they do Allah. No. Allah comes first, then the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then yourself. Everything within balance. Your fear of Allah's punishment has to be in balance, because if your fear of Allah's punishment is too great, you're going to lose hope. And you will say, what's the use in trying? And you'll just give in to the sins. Your love, your fear, all of that has to be in balance, and your hope too. So when it comes to loving and hating for the sake of Allah, I want you guys to remember everything has to be within balance. Okay? And we have to continuously seek the proper knowledge of this religion. So that way we can develop, a great understanding of what Allah loves and what Allah hates. So we in turn can do it too. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just to see how well you guys understand this. If you do, I'm going to give you a quiz. Okay, give you a quiz. And here's the first question. What are some things that we can do that in turn will cause us to develop attachment and love for other Muslims? Now, we talked about that. What are some things that we can do that will cause us to develop love and attachment for other Muslims? What are some things?
Get Muslim friends that practice Islam.
MashaAllah, good job, baby. That's one of the Sunnahfollower kids. Exactly. Number one, surround yourself with Muslim friends. Take Muslim friends that do practice the religion. You want to be friends with those girls that do wear hijab, that do pray every day. Good job. What else can we do to strengthen our attachment to each other and love for each other?
Participation with other Muslims.
What is it again? I couldn't hear you.
Participate in activities with other Muslims.
Yes, good job. Participate in whatever community functions they have. If you're a masjid that's having a potluck dinner, go to it. If you're a masjid that's having a fundraiser, participate in it. Participate in the weekend school. Good job. What else? What are some more things we can do?
Also, to be diverse when it comes to your friends, not just pick someone that's from your country or the same color as you. And do not look down on others as well. Try to help them out, advise them.
Good job. Exactly, guys. Be diverse in who you attach yourself to. And don't look down on others. I was, I streamed this weekend the AIM conference that Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid had, that our two of our people were at. Sheikh Atlee was there, and so was Dr. Ibrahim Jamali. And one of the pictures that, this is one of the reasons why I like Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid, not just because he's Egyptian like me, but also, that's a private joke with the sisters here in the Emirates. They think that I'm his sister. I still laugh at that. They think that me and Kareem Abu Zaid are brother and sister. But anyway, one of the things I like, he posted up a picture of him. It's a beautiful picture of him hugging one of the kids. Now, out of all the kids that came there and the people that attended that conference, because in my opinion, that was the best conference he's had, he had an African-American kid. It was a black child. And I thought that was so, and he held that kid so close and he was like, I just love you. And I said, this is why, you can't help but love Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid. He lets it be known it ain't no racism here. It ain't no Arab better than the non-Arab. It ain't no white man better than the black. Because unfortunately, this is a problem that we have today in America. America's always been a racist society. But I hate to say it, it's even racist with the Muslims. As you go to some parts here in America and go to some of these mosques, you will see they treat the African Americans horribly. They treat the black people like dirt. But Kareem Abu Zaid, he just hugging this kid and just loving him up, and the kid is black. And I said, now that's what I'm talking about. Whereas a lot of these other imams would have pushed that kid away. And they would be sitting there taking pictures with little Arabic children or little Caucasian or Bosnian children. That's a big problem. So, mashallah, diversity, surround yourself with good practicing Muslims from all different races and countries and nationalities. That'll cause us to develop an attachment for Muslims from everywhere. Any other answers? Before we move to the next question. Any other answers? Okay, let's look at the next. Go ahead.
The greeting.
Oh, wow. Nobody thought to say that but one of the Sunnah follower kids. Exactly. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us in an authentic hadith, one of the best ways to instill love into your heart for your brothers and sisters in Islam is to spread the greeting of assalamu alaikum and wa alaikum salam, because this is a supplication. Okay, you're supplicating for that person and they're supplicating back for you. If we would give the greeting, it'll cause us to love one another. It'll cause us to become closer to one another. Subhanallah, I remember when I went to visit my nephew before I came on this vacation I'm on. There was a Muslim. I went to the desk to get his room number, and one of the nurses was Muslim. She had a hijab on, mashallah. But when she saw me coming, she put her head down. Like, you know how they do, they don't want to answer the greeting. So she said, "May I help you?" And I said, "Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah." And she looked up and then she said, "Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah barakatuhu." And I said, "Yes, my sister, you can help me, subhanallah." And then after that, she started speaking naturally. She got up out of her seat, and mashallah, she was dressed, properly. And she walked me to the room, and it was like all that shame went away. Whatever shame she was feeling, or discomfort for greeting, it went away. And she was her normal self. So spreading the greeting of assalamu alaikum and wa alaikum salam, this helps to instill love, amongst us. Okay, let's look at the next question. What are some things that we can do to develop hatred of disbelief? What are some things we can do to develop a hatred for disbelief? Any answers? Go ahead. What are some things we can do to develop hatred for disbelief? Let me look on YouTube. I forgot I got my YouTubers. Let me find you. Uh-oh, I'm using so many programs. Oh, here you guys. Oh, wait, was that them? Yeah, there you guys go. Oh, good job. Another good answer. Engage within the community. Good job, Sister Santisa. Okay, good job. Okay, what are some things that we can do that will help us to develop that disavowal or hatred towards disbelief?
You can reflect on consequences, like things that you do that's wrong and the punishment that you receive for doing those things.
Exactly, guys. I'm telling you, that really works. That really works. Think about the punishment. Think about the punishment for not wearing hijab. Think about the punishment. Hey, check this out for you brothers out there. You brothers out there that say you can't stop smoking weed. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, on the day of judgment, a drunkard will be raised up as a kafir. Why? Because he took his desire for that intoxicant over his desire to be with Allah. Wow. Think about that. All your good deeds down the drain. All your prayers forgotten and nothing because your love for alcohol, your love for weed was greater than your love for Allah. That should make you stop smoking that marijuana. What else? Good job. What else is something that we can do to develop dislike for the things that Allah hates? Okay, brother.
Seeking the proper knowledge.
Exactly. Seeking the proper knowledge. Good job. Seeking knowledge. Learn the things that Allah dislikes. What else? Good job. Go ahead.
Not go back and look towards the past of when we were in the state of ignorance.
Oh, don't go back to the past. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. Say it again.
Yes, I said not go back and look towards the past when we were in the state of ignorance.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, not looking back at the past. Is there somebody else speaking too? Who else? Go ahead. Good job.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that we want to strengthen our own faith by focusing and deepening our own understanding and practice of Islam. We will become polar opposite of what disbelief is, and it will grow more of an appreciation within our heart for our deen, and it will automatically push us away from the aspects of disbelief. So
exactly. Perfectly said. And by the way, we're going to be teaching that book. By the way, that's Brother Abdullah, guys. He wrote a book that I told y'all we're going to be teaching here soon too. Yeah, and we're going to do his book soon. But exactly, guys, understanding, this is, I tell y'all, Elifur Khan, this is a gift. This is understanding of the deen. Understanding of the deen is a gift that comes from Allah, and he only gives it to a few people, to those whom he loves. And who are the people he loves? He loves those who love him to the point where they can put aside, their likes and their dislikes, and instead train their soul to accept what Allah likes and what Allah dislikes. Good job, Brother Abdullah. And also Sakina, I see it now. I see her answer too. Prayer, exactly. Through doing the things Allah likes, like making the prayers and doing actions of remembrance of Allah. This will help strengthen our relationship with him, and in turn we'll want to please him to the point where we'll do what he likes and stay away from what he dislikes. Good job. Brother Merard said simply staying away from the haram things, because if you keep staying in the presence of the haram, then it's hard to disassociate. Good job. Exactly, guys. Don't put yourself in an environment that's gonna seduce you to want to do the things that you know are displeasing to Allah. Well, let's see what else. I'm looking at this answer here. Say no thank you to gifts such as tarot cards and lottery gift cards and stuff like that. Exactly, guys. We don't play the lottery. When people come to give you lottery stuff and all that, don't accept it. By not accepting the things that Allah hates will cause us to hate those things too. So good job. Good answers you guys gave here. Let's look at the next question. This is a scenario, and I want you guys to think about this. Abdul has a strong hatred for disbelief, to the point that if he is standing and a non-Muslim stands next to him, he will move to a spot to be alone. And if he goes somewhere that has a line, he will stand off to the side until that line is free of anyone. He also works from home because he cannot bear to be in an office with non-Muslims. That's how much he hates disbelief. He hates disbelief so much that he can't be around a non-Muslim. Is this a good example of hating disbelief? And if not, tell us why. What do you guys think about this? What do you guys think?
That he's an extremist. That's not any balance. You in this world to be. I mean, that's just, to me, that's no balance. He just overboard with what he's doing.
Exactly, guys. This is what we want to avoid. That's extremism. We have to balance ourselves. We hate the things that Allah hates. But Allah also hates ignorance. Allah hates ignorance. And as Muslims, we're always surrounded by disbelief. We're surrounded by haram things. We're surrounded by disbelief. But the Prophet taught us that Allah loves the strong believer more than he does the weak one. Why? Because the strong believer can function in a world that is based on desires and still remember Allah and remember his purpose. So we have to work on becoming that strong believer. You don't want to be an extreme idiot. You don't want to hate disbelief to the point where you can't stand in a line, that you don't want no interaction. The Prophet Muhammad interacted with the non-believers. He interacted with the Jews. He interacted with the Romans. Okay? So I don't want you guys to go overboard and be extremists. Good job, Fresno. We have to seek balance. What about this? How important is balance in regards to love and hate? And why is it important?
If we have,
go ahead.
For example, like loving and fearing, or loving and hating for the sake of Allah. If we love too much, we're gonna also start to love sin and love things that Allah doesn't like. He hates, and if we have too much hate, then we're gonna start hating things that are lawful for us, and we're gonna transgress that limit too.
Exactly, guys. You will lose hope. You will lose. You'll be so fearful of Allah that you have no love for Him. Exactly. Everything within balance. You don't want to be oppressive, and you don't want to be a person that's oppressed. If you got that much that disbalance, you're gonna be hurtful towards others. You're going to go around transgressing the limits, with others. You're going to treat non-believers harshly. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did not treat the unbelievers harshly unless they were fighting against him. We have to be kind and considerate to them and respectful of them too, and live, in peace with them unless they transgress us. So everything within balance. And that's the problem that Muslims have today. Many Muslim women and many Muslim men are extremists. Yeah, I keep hearing it go off over here somewhere. Yeah. So, mashallah, are there any questions about today's class? You guys did pretty good.